Yo, what's going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back for the OPTC video. In today's video, now that the New Year celebration is sort of coming to a close, we've been putting together a bunch of top 10s for game mode specific legends like Treasure Map, PvP, Kazuna, Anniversary exclusives. We're going to round it out with the Super SUGO top 20. Yes, I'm doing a top 20 instead of a top 10 because, look, we have a lot of Super SUGOs now. Like, I'm looking at the list over on the my left-hand monitor, and man, we have a lot of Super SUGOs in game. Probably more Super SUGOs than we have with Treasure Map Legends, Kazuna Legends, stuff like that. And whilst the top 10 is probably going to be the more illustrious characters, I thought, let's give some recognition to some of those characters that are just outside of that top 10. And unlike these other videos, I've actually put some thought into this one. I've actually put together my top 20 before just doing it, like, on screen with you guys. So hopefully gives you guys a better understanding of what characters to prioritize in terms of tablets, because look, pretty much all Super SUGO characters have either Final Tap, Super Tandem, or Rush. The ones that don't, like, cool, but hopefully this video will help you guys prioritize not only what characters to look for on banners when you are summoning on different parts, or to use those particular tablets on. But let me know you guys top 5 best Super SUGOs in the comment section below. But while you're down there, belt the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff. With that said, let's build a top 20. Alright, so as I mentioned, we have, like, a lot of Super SUGOs. Like, a lot. So, you guys can't see past Roger here, but there's another 5 characters over on this particular side here. So, with that, like, there's, what, 15 characters I'm looking at here on top of the characters that were over here. So, we have a lot of characters. We have quite a few characters to talk about in today's tier list. And as you guys can see, obviously we have the top 20 going all the way up to the number 1 Super SUGO. And obviously, like, a number 1 Super SUGO is probably going to be, like, your number 1 character in the game, right? Like, that would kind of make the most sense in my opinion. So, let's start it off with number 20. And for that particular slot, I'm going to give some love to Sabo. The new New Year's Super SUGO Sabo coming in at number 20 might seem a little bit weird, because you might be thinking, Stump, this is one of the brand new shiny toys. Like, why is he so low? The downside to Sabo is that he is pretty much built up around Unga Bunga damage. He brought in a new buff that gives class type effectiveness. So this is really strong, just like type advantage. However, you need to have a class effectiveness, and for this to proc, the enemy needs to be weak to said classes. And he only does it for fighters and cerebrals. Fighter teams are getting a massive push with the New Year's batch. Cerebral teams, they're not exactly there, but if you ever do have weaknesses for those types, he's going to be the man to go to. However, he does have usefulness outside of that just Unga Bunga damage spectrum. He can give a 1.5 chain multiplicative buff that can be buffed twice, so this is actually kind of good. However, it's kind of a low-end buff that you want to prioritize a little bit later down the line when you're doing your big damage teams. And realistically, you're not going to bring him just for that. But what he does provide is a very powerful Super Tandem ability. The downside to his Super Tandem, though, is that he has a ridiculous requirement. And now you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this, in the sense that Sabo is very good, but he has a lot of holes. His Super Tandem needs 3 other characters, including himself, and it has to be a select list of the Revolutionary Army characters: Robin, Ace, Luffy, Garp, Dadan, and Markino, I believe. No, not Markino. Yeah, no, just Garp and Dadan. And then no Dragon either. So, kind of an interesting one with Sabo. If you get his Super Tandem off, he's a 3 times attack booster for Cerebrals and Fighters, which is really strong. But again, it's tailored to Cerebrals and Fighters, and he makes a 2.5 Orb multiplier buff for Rainbow, Tandem Orbs, which obviously are what's built around this particular New Year celebration. Overall, though, he does have good utility. Like, he can remove 10 tons of burn, 10 tons of special bind. His captain really bypasses special bind, which is very, very strong for himself only. If it was for the entire crew, Sabo would be much higher on my list. Like, would be way higher. But, unfortunately, when we are talking, like, Unga Bunga damage, he would sit higher. But he's so restricted to having that class be available that he is going to struggle when you are going up against, say, other advantageous type sets, like Powerhouse. Like, he's just not going to be used, unfortunately. The next character on the list I have is Robin, another Unga Bunga damage-dealing character. Robin's kind of just like a must-bring for all Super Boss teams. Like, there are characters that can do what Robin can do now, but, like, if you have 2 conditional buffs, you're doing monstrous amounts more damage. And the characters that can do this all bring their own conditional buff. Obviously, you have Shanks with his weakness, Big Mom with her burn, Robin with her defense down, and then you also have Ace with his burn. I believe Stussy can do it now as well with delay, with a double conditional boost there. But the real reason that this is so strong is because we have characters that can buff conditional buffs with either their super tandem, just like Nami, or with their final tap, like the new Luffy. And if you have 2 of these, it drastically increases your damage. It's kind of like, whenever I'm building teams for Super Boss, I always look for these double conditionals first, before I actually go for a conditional booster. They're like just a straight go-to, because they're providing so much extra damage. The downside to Robin, obviously it's an 80% defense down reduction. If it was 100%, she'd be way higher in this tier list, because she would actually provide so much more to a lot of other teams. But look, it's a Robin. Like, she activates so many super tandems. She has so many good supports. She's just a very, very good character, and one that has still aged very, very nicely, even though her captain potential, it's just not there anymore. Next, we have Nami, a character that is definitely starting to fall off. Came out alongside Robin, but this Nami obviously has a lot of utility value. Whenever there's paralysis content, she's going to be your go-to. Like, she just completely absorbs all paralysis, which is great. She provides a lot of very unique buffs, like chain boosting, base stats, and stuff that not a lot of other characters are providing for a team, so she's just bringing something automatically. On top of that, she provides a conditional buff with her super class, as well as her special. Plus, she has an amazing super tandem. Honestly, probably still the strongest super tandem in the game. If I had to guess, like, if I had to, like, say the strongest super tandems, like, Nami would be up there in the top 3, I think. You got, like, her, Zoro, Sanji, and Roger. Like, they're, like, your top 3 echelons, and now maybe Sabo, in terms of what the power output is. And this chick is, like, 2 years old now. So, like, very, very powerful legend. Definitely still can be ran on big super boss damage teams for int-based builds. You can run her as a sailor, because she has that sailor ability that absorbs paralysis, gives herself cooldown, and she's a cooldown character herself. So she just provides, like, a lot as a character. She removes resilience, she removes damage reduction as well. She removes threshold, I believe, as well. So she got some really, really good utility values for other areas of the game, like PK and stuff like that too. So don't discredit Nami, even though she's a little bit outdated. She's still one of the best damage dealers in the game, and a very, very strong character. Number 17, we've got Rush Sanji, another very, very good damage output unit. The very first Rush character, and still has a fantastic Rush. The Rush ability of Sanji works for strength, dex, and quick characters. So you can run this on a variety of different teams. He's a free spirit character. Obviously, he's a fighter as well, so he does mesh well with the new batch that came out for New Year's. But free spirit is, like, his main drawing point. He also provides some pretty unique buffs. He does base stats. He does chain boundary. He can do chain boost. And him and Nami are, like, very similar in what they provide for their teams. And it's very hard to, like, you can run them both on the same team, but, like, running them together, they kind of clash a little bit. His Rush, like I said, is very strong as a first tapper in the chain. It allows you to get a very big chain boost up. He can remove defense up as well in his special, so he has good utility there. And then he has that captain swap mechanic as well for 3 turns. This is really valuable when you are going up against really nasty content that has captain swap, so that way you can just bypass it. Moving into the next stage, he's still very, very strong. He's your full body recovery orbs too, which can deal with, like, hunger strats and whatnot. Plus, if you have, like, an attack down for every orb that isn't recovery, this Sanji's going to work out great, because he can actually provide a lot. Plus, it's a Sanji, just like these other 2 characters. You have so many good supports with Sanji. Like, so many good supports. Next, we've got Whitebeard and Ace. One of the newer Super Sugos. Well, one of the new shiny toys once again. Coming in at number 16. Now, I wanted to put Whitebeard and Ace higher on this tier list, but there's one gaping hole to Whitebeard and Ace that just honestly makes them almost unrunnable in a lot of pieces of content. But they provide one of the newest buffs that I love so much, that I want more of, and I hope Bandai goes down the route of, as being a captain that can provide extra buffs to their commanders. So any of the Whitebeard commanders, that excludes Ace obviously, are going to have an extra part of their special that isn't written in with their said characters. So, for example, every single marker in the game, when they use their special underneath Whitebeard and Ace, is going to have the ability to give HP guard at 100% and gives a 5-turn tap timing multiplicative buff, which obviously works perfectly with Whitebeard and Ace when you use their special, and you have a 5-turn tap timing buff, you are going to get the full passive of their special. So they are very, very powerful when they can make other characters very, very powerful, and when they have this tap timing buff, they can be very powerful themselves. They're a 2.5 chain boost. They're up to a 4.5 times attack boost for powerhouse and fighter characters, which is very, very strong. However, to get that massive attack boost, you do need to use specials before that. It starts at, I believe, 3.75 or maybe 3.5, and then goes up from there. Most of the time, like, if you use 3 specials in the quest, you're already sitting at 4 times, so that's going to be pretty easy to do. But the thing with Whitebeard and Ace is they don't go into their dual form when you use their special. And this obviously hinders their captain ability a lot, because a lot of the damage output you get from this character as a captain derives around their dual form. Now, When you use their special, you can remove 10 turns of attack down. You can get those really, really nice buffs. However, if you're not in the dual form, you're not getting everything that Wipe It and Ace is trying to do. So you have to get to your super swap with Wipe It and Ace, and then use the special. And in the boosted meta, that can be pretty easy to do. If fighters, if powerhouses, or quick characters getting boosted, getting their super swap, you're never going to have this issue. And yes, we live in a boosted meta that is not going to make this a big problem. However, you take that away, and again, you're just not really running the character anywhere. Like, anywhere at all, which is kind of sad. In my actual, like, they could probably jump up. Now that I'm looking at, like, my list here, they could probably jump up a little bit, purely for what they provide with that extra buff with the commanders. I think, honestly, yeah, I think now that I'm looking at this list, I'm going to jump them up to here. I'm going to bring them up to 13. I didn't think I was going to do this on the fly, but I'm going to bring them up to 13. Is it 13? No, it's probably 14. 14, yeah, it's 14. I didn't think I was going to do this on the fly, but like the power they can bring to other characters is just so valuable. Odin can be a damage reduction conversion buff. Jozu turns into a damage reduction conversion buff. Vistas give increased damage taken that bypass immunity at 2.25. Like, it's so disgusting what they can do, and I really want them to take this particular ability and apply it to some of the other characters in the game. Like I said, the downside, though, is getting their super swap charged. You need 8 swaps to get this done. 8 swaps is massive. They don't have any way of charging their super swap unless you're just literally swapping with them. This creates a lot of stall tactics. If they're not boosted in content, you're not going to get them into their dual form. But I do think you could probably still try and weasel away to make it work, or if you're happy to stall, it's going to work. But in Treasure Map, in like Kazuna when they're not boosted, it's going to be very, very hard to use this particular character. The upside, though, they bring a lot of attack boosting power. They bring a lot of chain boosting damage, which is crazy. They're also a first tap rush unit, which is really, really great. But you do need 3 characters for their EX and their rush to work. The EX does base stats, and they do tap timing multiplicative as well with their EX. So you can do some fun stuff with them. But one of the big drawing points to their captain ability too is that Ace's cooldowns, Whitebeard maxes your ship, which is very valuable, and they remove special limit by 10 turns. They are like my favorite character of the New Year's celebration, but like I said, that 8-turn super swap that you can't charge any other way is the big reason I have this character so low on the list. Because when they're not getting boosted, just like Sabo, when the class effectiveness isn't being boosted, you're really not going to be able to run the character. But I did have these 2 characters above Whitebeard and Ace, but like realistically looking at the list nowadays with the powerhouse structure, I do think Whitebeard and Ace is probably a little bit more valuable in terms of the damage output they can provide. But when it comes to your powerhouse builds, these 2 characters are characters that have just shown up time and time again. Big Mom, obviously just like Robin, who is like 3 spaces below her, provides a double conditional buff to powerhouse and driven units. As a captain, she's a 6x captain. She's a super EX to 2 classes and can give a color affinity buff with her super EX. She's very, very strong. She can use Kaido characters, well, normally just Kaido. But the thing with this Big Mom is she kind of got power crept by an anniversary exclusive, which makes it a little bit hard to run. But she's still very strong. She provides a lot of bulk. She's very, very good as a sub nowadays, but like her captain days are kind of over. But yeah, you still can't like discredit what this Big Mom does. And the reason her captain ability, like the reason she's higher on this tier list than Robin, is because her captain ability is so much stronger. Like it's just way stronger. Plus Robin kind of got power crept by Shanks a lot, but this Big Mom, she still goes on powerhouse builds. As for Kaido, Kaido's still probably, well now besides Wiping and Ace, Kaido was the best rush option for powerhouse-based teams. He's still a very good rush option for strength-based teams. You can use Sanji, but like Kaido's going to be your man. He does a conditional buff. He does an orb buff. He provides Wano orbs. He's still a fantastic character as a captain because he does a strength and powerhouse buff with his EX. He does end-of-turn damage, which bypasses resilience. He can do a lot. He bypasses barriers. He can do some really fun things if you have a Wano orb as well. And he can't be discredited what this man can do because like he is still a phenomenal rush Super SUGO character. Like I said, I'm going to put Whitebeard and Ace up here. I do think that they deserve to be a little bit higher on the list. But yeah, from what I'm seeing from Whitebeard and Ace, once we get out of this sort of boosted meta, like I really think those holes are going to show. Moving on to the next character on this list, we have Uta. Uta is everyone's favorite daughter for some reason. Everyone still fucking sucks her imaginary dick. I don't get it as much as other people do. And look, you can argue to me if you're more of an endgame player. With Uta, you have 3 different variations to choose from. You have the driven powerhouse version of Top Musica. You have the shooter cerebral version of the quick 6++. But this Uta right here, this is the one for me that is the strongest Uta. This is the one that you're going to get the most play out of. This one right here. The quick one's not too bad, but this one is the one that nowadays you're seeing a lot more from. Mainly because she's a striker. She helps the striker class a lot. The striker classes definitely need it. But the upside to Uta is she provides that music buff, which doesn't trigger interrupts. And that's sort of like the big thing that I love about her, is that you can pop her special, she gives herself an attack and an all buff, and then you don't have to worry about these attack and all buffs being interrupted. On top of that, she removes paralysis and special reverse, which is a great little combination when it comes to captain multipliers. But whenever I have paralysis, I try to use Nami more than anything. But in saying that, like, Uta just helps out in a lot of content that has these very finicky, annoying debuffs. Like this 10-star Kazuna that's coming out right now, like strikers of the rage. There's special reverse on one piece of content, so just run Uta and like you're going to be absolutely fine. So she's still very good. Again, I don't really see why everyone sucks her metaphorical dick, but at the same time, like she's still very strong and a very, very powerful character nonetheless. Talking about strikers now, the next character on this list that I have is Yamato. Yamato has the best final tap in the game, like without a doubt. Her final tap provides so much damage. Like we've seen like pictures of her doing like upwards of like 20 trillion damage just with her final tap alone. However, like if you're running her on a slash team, she works great. Running her on a striker team, she can struggle quite a lot. And nowadays we have a lot of other characters that can provide this damage reduction conversion buff. What made her final tap so valuable in the past was that not a lot of characters could actually give what she was doing. Now, like with this new Donsai Leo character, you have obviously the Super SUGO Yamato, the Orion version, who can provide that just as a sailor. Like, this ability has now been kind of power crabbed in the sense that, okay, well, I want my final tap to do something else, not give me a buff I already have. But her damage reduction buff is bigger than any other buff that any other character can give. So that's where it kind of has a lot of value when you are final tapping against either quick-based bosses or strength-based bosses. In saying that, though, like, slasher teams is where she shines the most, in my opinion. She has a lot of final tap buff with her captain abilities. She can give increased damage taken and color affinity. She removes damage reduction as well and bind her captain. So she's still very, very strong. Another character that like a lot of people are using it is 10th Kazuna right now because she has that bind removal in her kit. If you can't find something like the Donsai Leo friend captain, she's going to be like your next best go-to. Coming in at number 11, and look, this character was so close to cracking my top 10, man. Like, was so damn close. But unfortunately, with all of like the powerhousey buffs and other characters that have come out, versus Kaido for me, he's kind of just fallen off a little bit. I haven't actually spoken about PvP with any of these characters either, but like PvP is like another really good drawing point for some of these higher echelon units. Kaido, I guess we'll start with him. Fantastic PvP character. Like, this guy hits so damn hard in regular PvP. He's like the second best grand party leader in my opinion as well. In regular content, if you can run the 4 driven characters, if you can run the 6 driven characters, you're going to be doing better things. But again, paralysis and special reverse is such a great combination. And that's, again, why people love Uta so much. Well, this guy does it for classes that don't really have that kind of support. Like, strikers have Nami, so it kind of clashes with Uta, but like Driven doesn't have anything that like what Kaido's doing. So that ability to bypass those 2 effects is really, really strong. On top of that, he's a disgusting attack boost. He has one of the best super tandems for Driven and powerhouse-based characters. But just like Big Mom, the one that's kind of down here that you can't really see, this one, the Orion Big Mom, he kind of got power crapped with the anniversary exclusive Kaido and King. Not saying that Kaido and King are better than him, it's just like we now have another option for Kaido. And the downside to powerhouse and Driven-based teams is that we have so many Kaidos, we have so many Big Moms, we have so many Beast Pirates, we have so many Big Mom Pirates, we have so many Blackbeards, that all of these characters have to compete for a spot on the team, and they have to compete with themselves because we can't run the same name characters. So that's his big downside. He's still fantastic. I love him in PvP so fucking much. I run him all the time on my dex-based teams, but nowadays, like, in regular content, like, he's just fallen outside, and that's not a discredit to the character too much. It obviously does get affected by his class and his colors, but when you are running these sort of like Driven or powerhouse teams, I can definitely see him finding a way onto that team. This guy here, for me, did seem like a little bit more valuable in the latest Super Boss when we were running Driven powerhouse teams over this guy, but I do just think on paper, in practicality, in other pieces of content that wasn't just that one super boss, this guy is going to shine a little bit better. As for regular PvP, like, none of these characters are super fantastic anymore. Sabo, like, for me, is, like, ridiculously strong. I love running Sabo on my imp-based teams, but everyone else has kind of fallen off. Like, Sanji was good once upon a time. Kaido was good once upon a time. Like, Big Mom was good once upon a time. Wipe and Ace, I can see some play over on the Powerhouse team, but everyone else is kind of just come and gone with their particular time, so that's always something to note. Alright, so coming into the top 10 now, and as I mentioned, I did want to do a top 20 for this, and it's going to be a bit of a longer video, because like I said, I did want to give some of these characters some love. As you can see, like, there's some very, very powerful characters. Like, if you have these units, like, you definitely want to look at maxing them out, like, at least with, like, regular stuff anyway. The one that I would sort of, like, recommend using tablets on within the regular situation is Yamato. Not, like, I would say go for it, like 3 months ago. Now it's more of like a stand off and wait. Kaido the same, like stand off and wait, and then Wipe It and Ace still again stand off and wait. Sabo could see some very valuable tablet usage just because he's so damn powerful with what he can do, but like you got to be able to fit him on the team. You got to have like the rest of that New Year's batch to make him like what he is. But let's move on to the top 10 now. These are the top 10 best, I wouldn't say best characters in the game because like Anniversary exclusives is still very, very good. There are still some very good treasure map legends like Nami Karina. So let's say the top 10. The top 10 Super SUGO characters. Now I do want to give some what's it called? I do want to give some what's the word I'm looking for? Some notable entries that did miss out on the top 20. And some people are probably going to be like, damn, man, how did you not include this character? Firstly, we have Gear 5 6+. Gear 5 6+ can do some really nice things. Gets around Despair and his captain. Has a super type for every single type in the game, which worked great with the New Year's Luffy. But he's just fallen off. Like he's rainbow damage, needing one of every type on the crew. He's just like no longer is super valuable. You obviously need to bring Straw Hats to make him a little bit more annoying. So, unfortunately, like, it is what it is with him. As for another character I want to give a notable mention to, I want to give Ace and Yamato a shout out wherever they are on this particular list. They're going to be somewhere. Ace Yamato, Ace Yamato, Ace Yamato. There they are. Ace Yamato, still a fantastic character for a lot of content that isn't like big damage teams anymore. They bypass, what did they bypass? Bind and something else. Oh, is it? No, maybe it's just Blind. But they have special cooldowns in their special. They have Chain Boundary in their swap. They're an attack booster. They're a conditional buff. I swear they removed something else. It's just Bind. Bind and Special Bind. That's it. Special Bind. That combination is like so damn valuable. Like Special Bind and Special Reverse is probably a little bit more a little bit better. But I do want to give a shout out to those characters. The other two is Verse Law and Verse Kid. These two characters will definitely see a right. Oh, that's not Verse Kid. You're Verse Kid. Get out of here, you imposter. Hopefully this guy gets a 6+ soon, and he might actually be up there on the tier list as of the release of this video. Verse Kid and Verse Law are both fantastic characters, but they're just products of bad teams. And the fact that you need 6 characters, 6 shooters for Kid, 6 strikers for Law to get the effectiveness out of them. The upside to like Verse Kaido that we just spoke about earlier was that you could run 4 and still get like the crazy effectiveness out of them. So yeah, there's that. And then the last character I want to give a shout out to is Kid Killer. Kid Killer have a cheeky ability to bypass normal attacks only, which can be very valuable in Super Boss. And that's pretty much the only place. It's very hard to get them to do that, because like you are looking now at cracking 1 tree damage, but it's something that I want to mention. Other characters that are kind of cool, you have Roro Noro Zoro from the Gear 5, the Anniversary of 9th year. Still very good in PvP, can still do some really fun stuff with doubling the damage limit. He's the only character that can really do that. People don't like them, but like Luffy Yamato is still fantastic. Increased damage taken that goes to full immunity, has been power crept now with obviously that exact buff. And then finally you have the Straw Hat Crew. Straw Hat Crew V2 still has the best final tap in the game. Even though it's like never used anymore, like it is still the best final tap in the game. So they're my honorable mentions. Honorable mentions, that's the words I was looking for. They're my honorable mentions. Let's move into the top 10. And starting off the top 10, I have Verse Blackbeard. Ironically, unlike Verse Law, Verse Blackbeard's really, really good. You do want to have somewhere between 4 and 6 powerhouse characters to make him super effective. Like super effectiveness. To get the super effectiveness out of him. And if you really, really want to make him work to the way he should, you need to have 6 powerhouse characters. And that's the one gripe I have with the unit. Like, you need 6 powerhouse characters. And you can probably say that Stump, this guy here, he makes everyone powerhouse characters, or fighters and cerebral. No, cerebrals and free spirit. However, you need to use 8 specials for this guy to work, and like that's just not feasible in today's day and age. But if you have the 6 powerhouse characters, like you just run, like some of these characters you see on screen right here, like you got Kaido, you got the White and Ace, you go down here, you got the big bombs. If you can get the 6 powerhouse characters to work, he provides HP guard, he provides massive attack boost, he provides massive base stats, he gets chain boost in his versatility, which is very easy to get, by the way, because you just have to pass turns or use specials, which is just ridiculously easy to get. His rush is pretty lackluster. Like, you want to rush with him last to get the effectiveness out of it, because like the way he works is that like Law's rush is the first tap, his rush is the last tap, even though he's like the rush will trigger if you tap with him first. But he's like your go-to for powerhouse based teams. Whenever I'm running powerhouse, like Blackbeard is going to be my go-to captain. I'm going to try and find a way to make Blackbeard work. He does want to get low HP, but then obviously has HP guard to maximize stuff like rush, bypass stuff like burn, bleed, pain, like all of those shitty debuffs that are so hard to remove. He can just do this because he has that HP guard ability. So Blackbeard's phenomenal, very, very powerful character, and one that is going to just run amok when it comes to powerhouse base builds. As for PvP, he's like one of the best PvP characters in the game. Like, he just absolutely destroys the meta. You can run him anywhere because he has attack down removal as well as a captain, so you can do some fun stuff there. But again, the downside to him is that he really wants you to have 6 powerhouse characters to function in a way that actually makes him super viable. A lot like him, we have the 10th anniversary Int Gear 5 Luffy as the number 9 unit. This guy's fallen, honestly. In my opinion, this guy has fallen off so drastically. And honestly, we're about to talk about a lot of Gear 5 characters that once just like dominated the game. But nowadays, like I said, he's starting to fall. We've got other powerhouse characters kind of do what he does. Like, every powerhouse character that comes out is like a fucking attack booster, base attack booster, chain booster. Like, they're all doing the same fucking thing. So it's hard to just keep putting these characters high on tier lists when they're all doing the same thing. Like, look, they're literally 9, 10, and 11 are all powerhouse characters that give an attack boost. Like, why? I don't need this many attack boosts. The upside to Luffy, though, is if you have an attack boost, he's a base attack booster, but then you look at Blackbeard, and Blackbeard's a base attack booster already. So, like, what the fuck's the point? But he's a very good rush. Obviously, he's a Luffy character that does powerhouse buffing, and that's what makes him so damn valuable. He's a demon in PvP. He's the best Grand Party leader. If you have this guy, you want to max out anything you can on him. Like, even rush tablets on this guy doesn't go astray because he just does so much damage with his rush, like the other 10th anniversary characters do. He's been popping up on a lot of banners too, so a lot of people should either have him or have a couple of dupes in him. So he's doing some really nice things within those game modes and still shining so nicely. Like, if this was like, you obviously, like, if I was prioritizing stuff like PvP a little bit higher, if I was prioritizing stuff like Grand Party higher, like this guy would see some higher moves, but unfortunately he kind of isn't, which is kind of a shame. But at the same time, he's very, very powerful. He can bypass despair, he can remove bind, he can remove threshold, he can give a full board of in-ors which can't be changed, very strong attack boost, and then obviously has the ability to increase orb effects by 1.5 times, which is an insane ability that the anniversary characters brought, and turns like a 4 times multiplier into a 6 times multiplier, which is just absolutely disgusting. So, still very good, but again, has definitely fallen off. And another character that's fallen off, in my opinion, is 6-star Gear 5 Luffy. I was kind of tossing and turning here where I wanted to put Gear 5 Luffy. Gear 5 Luffy's like value is just so good in like PKA, getting yourself to like level 100. Treasure map, if you need that revive or that bypassing damage reduction effect, like, he's going to be your man. But outside of that, like, we haven't really had anywhere else to run him. Now, granted, we haven't had an Int Super Boss in so fucking long, so it's hard to sort of like talk about his like big damage potential. But I figure by the time that actually comes out, he's probably going to be power crept with another another side unit that's just going to do a little bit more. And on top of that, when we did we have an Int Super Boss and we just used like Rush Shanks? I think that's what we did. Yeah, I think we just used like Rush Shanks. But this guy's Rush obviously got power crept by Shanks. He is a color affinity booster and an ore-based booster for Free Spirit, and then Psy Free Spirit that gets even bigger buffs, which is great, but it's not what some of these other buff levels are actually doing. Still very, very strong though. He's on a really high cooldown, doesn't give any cooldowns in his captain, but again, like I said, the draw to the character is that he can bypass bind and special reverse in his captain ability, and he has that ability to bypass damage reduction effects. In Treasure Map, I use him like quite religiously just for that ability. to, like, again, bypass those effects, as well as give the, what's it called, like give a revive to the team as well. So like death hits aren't really a problem if you're running 2 of them. So you can do some fun stuff there. He's definitely still going to be used, but again, in like more of your end game sort of content, like not a lot of end game players are using this Luffy anymore besides those particular strats that I spoke about. He does have potential. He doesn't really see too much play in PvP like he once was. The 6+ obviously does still. Not even really, because the next character we're going to talk about basically just replaced this particular 6+ Luffy. And that is the New Year's 6-star Gear 5 Luffy. Coming in at number 7, and look, a lot of people probably think I'm going to put this guy a little bit higher on the tier list, but through playing with this guy for a little while, I'm not sold on this guy just being like as broken as he looks on paper. The downside to this character is that realistically, you want to be in the Gear 5 form. As a captain, if you're not in the Gear 5 form, you're not getting a lot of the buffs. He's a 7, up to almost a 7 times captain, provided the unit has a super type and 2 super classes activated, which obviously if you run his EX, you are going to just get that for free with him. But to get that, you need 3 of the Straw Hat characters. Just like this guy here, to get the effect off, you need to bring 3 units to trigger this. Now, this can be a little bit annoying because unlike this guy right here, this guy, whilst it's still being a free spirit character, is based around fighter-based teams. And there's not a lot of like Straw Hats that are all like fighter-centric, besides maybe like Sanji. So that can be a little bit of a problem for the character. Characters like Sabo and Ace don't actually trigger his EX, and that's a massive hole to the unit. I don't understand why they created a New Year's batch of characters and didn't include the Sabo and the Ace, the Garp or the Dadan on the EX to this particular Luffy. So if they were included, like, this guy would be way higher. Because, like, you have good options when it comes to Ace characters. You have really good options when it comes to Sabo characters. That are all either fighter or free spirit. So you can do some fun stuff with this guy still. But again, the big hole for me is like getting his EX to pop. Now, he does have another way of getting an EX to pop. And that's if you have a super type. If you go into the Gear 5 form. So you need a super type and then the 2 super classes from someone else. And that's where like the Wipe It and Ace and the Sabo come into play. Because you can use those abilities as sailors. And then you just trigger his Gear 5. And then you just go into his EX that way. Now, when you can get that to work, he is disgusting, but the options for that are so limited. Like, you have, like, Ori and Yamato, Zoro Sanji, Sabo, Wipe It and Ace, Anniversary Roger. Those are the characters that I can think of off the top of my head that are going to work exceptionally as subs for him. The 6+ waifus work amazingly as well. But, again, like, not a lot of them are just, like, fighter-based units, which this guy's really trying to push towards. And again, that doesn't mean you have to build fighter-based characters, but that's where most of his damage is coming from. He's a fighter-based territory character. He does increased damage taken, and can do weakening if you have him as his EX. Something I didn't talk about with Blackbeard too is he's a powerhouse territory booster. Same with Wipe It and Ace, and Sabo does cerebrals. So like that's what makes them a little bit higher on this list as well. Still having like that effectiveness with those particular types. So sorry I didn't talk about that, but that's, again, another really upside to the character. Territories are broken. Like, territories just, like, provide so much for teams. You get extra damage. You take less damage. It just makes those characters hit so much harder. His EX is very, very good, like I said. Just basically giving him everything he needs to flourish. But the downside is if you want to run the 2 territories as well, then you have to bring the Verse Luffy that comes alongside Verse Kaido, which can be a little bit hard to do, again, when you're running, like, fighter-based teams. But you can do it. It definitely can be done. They clash a lot, obviously, with their increased damage taken and their conditional buff for that. But this Luffy also, to get that conditional buff, will either need increased damage taken to be live or have a 10-turn recovery buff at the end of the turn. And, like, not a lot of characters can do this. Like, you have the Galaxy Impact Garp, the free-to-play Kuzen, and the new Sabo that can provide this. But outside of that, you're not really getting it. So to get both of these effects, you either have to be restricting to running these like very small pool of characters, or already have an increased damage taken, and that's just going to affect your big damage teams in the long run. So he's good, fantastic in PvP, top 3 Grand Party leader, like fantastic over there in PvP. But again, what I'm seeing right now in the longevity of this character just doesn't really hold a candle to what some of these other characters are actually doing now. Moving in closer and closer to our top 5 now. This one might be a little bit biased, and not a lot of people might agree with me, but I've got Anniversary Shanks in at number 6. Anniversary Shanks is a character that has just aged so damn nicely. like so damn nicely. Gives chain boundary, gives color affinity, whichever one you guys want, depending on what other buffs you bring for the team. Like the best rush character for Sai. Slasher, so automatically winning because Zoro Sanji's a thing. Can give a full board of orbs. Has a fantastic EX ability that can remove intimidation. And then also has the ability to remove barriers, which is one of the most annoying abilities in the game. PvP, very, very strong. Grand Party has an amazing leader ability as well. There's not really too much else to say about Shanks than he's just fantastic. He's like absolutely fantastic. His final tap with rushing is just way better than something like this guy. And his final tap, so like I didn't mention about Luffy, it's like his final tap is very strong, but it's just like base stats and then increases conditional buffs, which again is why you really want to run 2 conditional buffs on teams nowadays with all these characters that can like increase them exponentially. So Shanks, fantastic unit. I've spoken about Shanks for like the last 7 months now. We don't really need to keep rambling on about him and why he's so damn amazing. But speaking of Shanks though, coming in at number 5, the illustrious top 5, I have Verse Shanks. Verse Shanks, again, is another character that just keeps climbing higher and higher and higher on my tier list. Whenever it comes to just big damage teams, if I have a slot on a slasher team, I throw Shanks on. Like, he's just so powerful. Provides a territory for slasher characters. Can provide the weakness debuff, which not a lot of characters can do. Obviously, you need it in his versatility, which is a bit hard to get, because, like, you need characters to tap with tandem orbs. But Zoro Sanji just, like, says hello. And just makes his character shine so much. If Zoro Sanji wasn't in the game, I would not have this character in top 5. Like, I can happily agree with anyone that wants to say that, but at the same time, Zoro Sanji does exist. So that's what makes his character so much better. Like, I'm not rating these characters on, like, what they do on paper. Like, I'm rating these characters on how powerful they are in the game, in the meta, and how often you use them to hit the top echelons of damage output, reward pools, all of that stuff, to either make your life easier or make your account better. Like, that's the bottom line. So Shanks is fantastic. Can provide a double conditional buff. One of the only 4 or 5 characters in the game that can do it. You do need 6 slashes on the team, which again is very, very annoying. Just like I said with Kid, just like I said with Law, just like I said with Blackbeard. But the upside to Shanks is he has Zoro Sanji, who can turn everyone into slashes. So there's just that. Like, the game has gone into a era where they are artificially nerfing slashes by adding 200% resistance to bosses just to stop us from using slashes because they have so much goddamn power. And this character, he's at the forefront of that. You partner him up with any character that does increased damage taken, and then you're just off to the races. And the best character to do that is Verse Luffy, which again is a free spirit character. Put him on the team as Zoro Sanji, and you're kind of winning there. PvP, so fantastic. Honestly, he just gets better and better for me on PvP teams. I run him on my slasher team religiously now. He can be thrown on an int team. He can be thrown on a cerebral team. He can do some really, really fun stuff there. But look, for me on paper, this guy's just better on PvP. But in practicality, I've just been using Verse Shanks so much more when it comes to PvP teams. Because he makes S-Hawk just shine through the goddamn wazoo. So Verse Shanks taking spot number 5. And as I mentioned while we were rambling on about Verse Shanks, the One Piece Day versus Luffy, the very first Luffy, is taking my number 4 slot. And then these two characters together just work so damn well. Luffy's a territory for free spirit. Then you have Shanks, who's a territory for slasher. Zoro Sanji turns everyone into free spirit slashers. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. You have yourself a butt ton of damage. Top of that, Luffy does increased damage taken. Shanks does weakening effect. They work hand in hand. Luffy increased conditional buffs. Works hand in hand for both of them, because now we have 2 conditional buffs with the weakness and the increased damage taken. So you can just do disgusting things. The combination of these 2 characters and then Zoro Sanji just thrown in, you've basically got every buff you need. You have 2 conditional buffs, chain boundary, weakness, increased damage taken, attack boost, orb boost, chain boost. You have everything you need. It's wild. You have super tandem, you have final taps. It's crazy. This Luffy probably has the second best final tap in the game behind the Straw Hat Crew V2. This one has way more practicality behind it, because it's a newer character and you're going to be running this character a lot more. In PvP and Grand Party, he's not the top echelons, but still very strong in PvP, just like Kaido. But Kaido's team is just, it's a little bit more functional than what the quick team is with this Luffy. But in saying that, still, he's still a fantastic character that you can definitely run. As for big damage teams, he's a must bring. In content where you need bind removal or burn removal, he's going to be a character that works very, very nicely in that regard, because he can just bypass effects. And he also has the ability to extends like the duration of debuffs removal. So like if you have like a defense up removal character that's like 5 turns, he'll turn it into 6 turns as a captain. So that's actually something that's really, really fun to do with the unit as well. And yeah, he's just really good. Like he's just really, really good. And in this particular 10-star Kazuna, a lot of people are opting at using him because he can just bypass that blind ability too. So very, very cool character, very, very fun character. He also removes attack down in his special too, which is a very, very good utility removal there. So coming in number 4, I have Verse Luffy. And at number 3, I have a character that a lot of people don't rate nearly as highly as I do. And honestly, I don't understand why. I can't actually find her. There she is. Orion Yamato. I don't get what people don't see about this unit. I just don't. She is disgusting. Like, she's so good. Like, she's so disgusting. Again, another character that thrives under Zoro Sanji, because Zoro Sanji makes everyone into free spirit characters. She can be a massive attack boost at 3.25. She can give an overrideable orb buff that works amazingly with stuff like Ace, who's also free spirit. But then she also has the ability to remove 7 turns of any debuff, any icon debuff. Pain, bleed, attack down below a certain chain multiplier, which is the big one, special limit, any of those shitty debuffs that people hate trying to get around. She just removes it by 7 turns, which is massive. 7 turns is massive. Like, if it's anything above 7 turns, they either don't want you to remove it, or they want you to use, like, a captain that they just released to remove it. So, she's so good. Like, she's just so damn good. On top of that, if you don't have the 6 free spirit or the 6 cerebral characters to get all of her fancy, like, captain ability debuff removal, or her fancy buffs as Sailor, she can still be a damage reduction conversion buff. And this is what I was talking about earlier with Yamato. This character kind of power crept her, because obviously they have the same name, but she also can just give the buff at a 1.8 times. She gives the damage reduction buff. She increases superclasses to 1.3 times. I just don't understand what people don't see. Like, she's giving so many unique buffs to the team, then you have all your other buffs. And as I mentioned with like these 2 characters right here, and then Zoro Sanji, you then throw Yamato into the Orion Yamato into the mix, and now you have a superclass buff, you have a damage reduction conversion buff, you have a rush ability at the first tap. On top of that, she's a Yamato, so she procs straight into Zoro Sanji's super team ability. So at the moment, like, I can't see a world where she's not a top 3 best character in the game. Like, it's just wild to me. It's wild that she keeps getting better and better and better with every piece of content that comes out. PKA, she's amazing. Grand Party, she's got a great Grand Party leader. PvP, absolutely fantastic. Super Boss, provides great damage. Like, she's just doing everything you need. Just a very, very, very well-rounded character, and one of my favorite characters in the entire game. Coming in at number 2 now, we have the other anniversary exclusive, or not anniversary exclusive, the other 10th anniversary Super Sugo character in Ace. Ace is another character that, again, is just keep getting better and better and better. A lot of people are going to sit there and be like, yeah, but Ace is only good because the content around when Ace released was a lot of damage nullification, and I don't really care too much about cooldowns. Well, look, the rest of the world does care about cooldowns, and if you're a endgame player that just wants to get shit done, getting it done as fast as possible, and hitting, like, not just hitting your high echelons of damage all the time, is always going to be the play. But again, he removes damage nullification, which is like a massive, massive thing to the character. Any character that can remove damage nullification is super valuable, unless you're bringing a character that can bypass that. And besides, like, Gear 5 Luffy, no one can really do it as well as what Ace does. Ace is immune to special reverse, just like Shanks was immune to blind, and Luffy's immune to despair. Well, this Ace, he's actually immune to special reverse, which makes him very, very interesting. That ability to remove special reverse is great because it works in tandem with his EX and his special. His EX gives cooldowns, his special gives cooldowns. He's a orb booster and an attack booster, because his EX is an attack boost, which is just great. His EX can increase color affinity buffs, which isn't like the best thing ever, because like color affinity is being power crept with this whole class power up effectiveness thing. But even still, like, you run him with Orion Yamato after Zoro Sanji, you then override the attack boost, and you got yourself orb boost, and you got 4 times orb boost, and a conditional against burn, which he's going to proc as well. So any overrideable orb buff, like, this guy is going to shine. His rush is incredibly strong, whether you're tapping last for Dex teams or first for Dex teams. He's just basically like a better version of Rush Sanji. And on top of that, he's an Ace character. Like, a lot of characters need Ace for either the EX or their rushes and stuff like that. For example, you have stuff like every single Yamato in the game, most Luffys in the game can use Ace, and most Rogers can use him as well. So very, very good unit. Great limit break abilities. The ability to get 50% cooldowns at the start of the quest, though, is what I love most about Ace. Like, you run him as a captain in Treasure Map, which I recently did with Yamato, actually. And then you get all the cooldowns you need, and you can just pop the specials you need to just quickly bypass Treasure Map stages. In PvP, he's phenomenal. Like, does so much damage. Great defensive drops. He's very, very good pretty much everywhere in the game. No matter where you put Ace, besides maybe Grand Party Leader, Ace is going to be super effective in that game mode. And as you guys could probably guess from the way I've been rambling on about these characters in the top 10, the number one Super SUGO character in the game right now is 6+ Luffy. This guy right here. He's trash. He's so trash. He's like he's actually so bad. Plus, like, fuck that guy, man. Like, the whole, like, paywalling a 6+, man. Like, get the fuck out of here. Zoro Sanji. Zoro Sanji is the number one Super SUGO in the game. Look, it's been over a year now. Like, just let that sink in. The character came out for New Year's 2024. Let that sink in. Because that's crazy. They really fucked up with Zoro Sanji, and they know it, too. Like, Zoro Sanji are one of the few characters that have a different special depending on what variation of the character you use. Zoro Sanji as a dual form can remove defense up and threshold. They give chain boost, chain multiplicative, and chain, what's it called? Chain tap timing, all in one unit, which is wild. Like, if they did chain boundary as well, like, you'd be like, holy shit, this character's crazy. Their super swap gives a full water tandem orbs through block orbs, 2.25 attack and orb boost that can be overrideable. Then you start talking about the regular swap, which gives 3 tandem orbs to adjacent characters, provided you put them in the middle slot, and then gives you a 1.5 attack and orb boost that can be overridden. And then when you have overrideable buffs, like this character thrives from that, this character can thrive from that. Just so many characters that can just thrive if you have an attack boost already. The 10th anniversary in Luffy, Wiping an Ace, like, there's so many characters that can thrive around that. So, very, very powerful ability. On top of that, if you don't get them into their dual form, then you have the ability to just room defense up with Zoro, threshold with Sanji. So that's kind of nice. Sanji can turn characters into Free Spirit. Zoro can turn characters into Slashes. You bring them together, and they turn everyone into Free Spirit and Slashes. And, like, Bandai know that this ability was way too strong, so they've given it to us with other characters, like Wiping an Ace, but they've gated it behind either ridiculous abilities or ridiculous effects, like 8 specials, or they've only allowed us to change certain classes into that class, with stuff like Vegapunk and Kazuna Whitebeard, turning, like, the secondary class, as long as it's cerebral, into a powerhouse character. So they're never going to do something like Zoro Sanji ever again. Like, they've known how badly they fucked up with this character. One of the best super tenders in the game too. You need a Luffy or a Yamato to proc it, and then, like, any of the Straw Hats there, and then all of the Wano Donnies. Very easy to do when you have these 2 characters sitting here in the top 4. Like so easy. They turn tandem orbs into a 2.5 multiplier. They're a 2.25 attack boost with their super tandem. The one thing that I will say that, like, these characters are struggling is being a captain. But as a captain, when you use their special, you turn everyone into Free Spirit Slashes, they get the 6 times multiplier with the 2 classes anyway. So most of the time, you're using them as a sailor. They've got crazy sailor abilities too. They just remove 1 turn of despair. They get super swap charge when you tap with a recovery, Wano, tandem, or is it Samurai? No, I don't think it's Samurai. I think it's just recovery, tandem, Wano. I think if you tap with any of those orbs, you get 1 turn of super swap cooldown, which is, like, the big draw to the character, because, like, we go back to Wiping an Ace and how hard it is for them to get their super swap. And they're like, this New Year's character. Then you look at this guy who can get it with, like, Roger supports or other characters that can make tandem orbs or recovery orbs or Wano slots. Or regular roles, you're going to get recovery and tandem orbs. So you can get their super swap easy. They work great on no-stall teams. They're just the be-all or end-all when it comes to big damage. And like I said, if you get these 4 characters on the team here, 1, 2, 3, 4, you basically have everything you need. And, like, if you want, you can throw Ace on there too. Say, for example, you need another conditional boost. Maybe Shanks isn't cutting it for you, and you run these 4 characters. Like, you're going to be doing some really, really fun stuff there. But there you go. That's my top 24 Super SUGO characters. Starting 2025, obviously, at least I thought anyway, and honestly, like, when I made this video, I was probably dick riding Free Spirit and Slashes just a little bit too hard. So, all you jabronis down in the comments go, yeah, but Stump, you've rated Shanks way too high. Yeah, look, honestly, you're right. I definitely have. My bias buff, whatever you want to call it, came in real hot with Shanks here, and Vershanks is probably a little bit too high on this particular tier list. Also, I consulted in my main man Porky, who is a big advocate for Int Luffy. Now, after the latest Super Boss as well, what we did with Int Luffy, we did like 2 trillion damage with him, which was awesome. I'm actually just going to do a straight swap with these 2 characters here, and then I'm probably just going to leave it like that, actually. I think that's probably, like, for the best. Maybe moving these guys, like, up here like this might be a little bit more understandable with the less Shanks bias, but this particular Shanks, realistically, he's just damage output. He has the spare removal in his captain, and he has that crit buff shenanigan that, like, Roger Ellie Kavan has, but he's not removing, like, anything too crash hot when you hit with perfect with him. So, again, he's just damage, but he has shown how valuable he is for endgame players with big damage teams when it comes to Super Boss, as well as, like, PK and stuff like that. As for this Shanks, look, I like this Shanks more than I like this Luffy. And, like, after using this Luffy, like, jumping through hoops for him that doesn't involve bringing, like, Dadam with a quick support or bringing something like Sabo, it's just very, very hard to make him work. Shanks can kind of work very easily. Like, the 10th anniversary characters, they're just, like, their design is so beautiful. But I definitely think that Luffy, I definitely underrated Luffy. I still think he fell off as, like, a unit, just because, like, Powerhouse aren't exactly there, and this Luffy, in my eyes, he's just a little bit better. Like, this Luffy here is just a better version of this guy, in my opinion. Like, this guy is very, very strong. You can do more damage with him. You just have to jump through more hoops. But again, Luffy's spare removal, being an attack booster, works great with the new Whitebeard Ace, and works well with Blackbeard. Any, like, Powerhouse character that can do something else that's not an attack boost or, like, work with attack boosting is always going to be valuable. Plus, the anniversary characters, buffing attack boost by 1.5, buffing orbs boost by 1.5, buffing color affinity by 1.5. It's very, very valuable. Like, a very, very valuable buff. So, I'm going to, like, revert back to saying that, like, Luffy, I'm going to put him up here in top 5. I think he's definitely seen a rise. Because Fighter's getting a lot of love, Powerhouse getting a lot of love. When it comes to the best character in those particular tiers, he's definitely one that we can talk about. But that is going to wrap up the tier list for the start of 2025. Obviously, this tier list is going to change in the future. We are going to get more Super Sugos, obviously, when the anniversary comes around for the 11th anniversary. We should probably see a bit more of a power creep there. We'll probably see some more for One Piece Day a little bit later down the line. Plus, we'll have the New Year's batch for 2025. But as for, like, the next Super Sugo banner, I do think the next Super Sugo banner is Anniversary, which is in May. So, like I said, that's going to wrap up the video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite or what you think is the best Super Sugo down in the comment section. But while you're down there, belt the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff. Most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.